Hey everyone, hope you're having a great Monday so far. This is Lisa Redamosa with NEC. This is our weekly lunch and learn for EOC and talent search proposal writers. The only time during the day, except after hours, weekends, and evenings, where we can talk about everything and anything dealing with the proposal competition. Um, with me, as always, I have Donna Walls. She is checking the chat and also putting in links just in case you don't have the link to the Dropbox, not Dropbox, all these years, Google Drive, and also some services we'll be talking about as we go through our weekly session. We also have Leah on also monitoring the chat. We do have chat open and also Q&A. Please ask any questions. It doesn't have to be on the specific section that we're talking about. I usually pick on a section every week just to get things going. But if you have questions about anything else regarding the Talent Search and EOC competition, go ahead and start putting them in the Q&A. I will answer to the best of my ability and knowledge, and I will be the first to tell you I don't know, or I'm not sure, or this is what I would do. And I'll be completely honest. This is, I'd say I'm not sure, but this is the way, this is the route we're taking, so to speak. Before we get started, I just wanted to bring your attention again to the NEC shop. We have a variety of free webinars. You can always check out our past recordings on our YouTube channel. Just look up, Sotros Education Center. Donna will also put something in the chat so you can do a direct link. We've got playlists that have all the APR unpacking webinars for free that we put out there. We're in the process of updating them. We've already had quite a few. EOC folks out there, we are having one on the 12th on Wednesday from 1 to 2:30. We're going to be talking about unpacking the EOC APR. So it would be really great if you all can make it. If you can't, go ahead and register anyway. You'll get the link to the recording. And if you forget or lose that link, it's going to be on the YouTube channel within 24 hours as well. For those of you that are also working with Veterans Upward Bound, we've got those coming up. Also, McNair's coming up. For those of you Talent Search, if you missed our previous one, you can go onto the YouTube channel and see that we just did one a couple of weeks ago. For those of you involved with McNair and Veterans Upward Bound, if you want to get a head start on that and you don't want to wait until the 19th or December 3rd, you can also check out on our YouTube channel the recordings we did for the 23-24 APR. Since we don't have the access to the latest instructions for 24-25 APR, everything we're doing is based off of the 23-24 final instructions, which I'm almost positive 99% will remain the same. So I always urge folks, we even did a blog post on that. If you want to check that out last week, making sure that folks realize you don't wait on the Department of Ed APR portal to open to start working on your APR. That's where you can start finalizing or uploading it. You must have access to it to submit, but it doesn't mean that you have to wait until it's open, which I don't know when it will be open, to work on this information. Use last year's instructions, and that's pretty much the theme that we have. And again, you guys are joining us through our free lunch and learn webinars here that we do have all the recordings. So if you're just coming on board, this is your very first time with us, welcome. But you can also see all the past recordings in a playlist that's in the YouTube channel, okay? APR, I just mentioned that. Want to let you know that as an allowable service, we are providing technical assistance with Upward Bound, Talent Search, EOC, all the TRIO programs, APRs. We do have Mary Meeks, who's going to specialize in the Veterans Upward Bound APRs, because those to me are the toughest. I got to go to her when I work on those. But all the other Talent Search, EOC, SSS, Upward Bound, we can assist you with those as well. You decide how many hours you need. Some people start with just a couple of hours and they say, well, I need more, or that's all I needed. If you need any individual assistance on how to tackle specific student situations, utilizing, specific databases, I'm very familiar with Bloom, but I help a lot of people with student access and Lakai. It doesn't matter, an APR is an APR. We also have a webinar coming up on the 18th for SSS programs, implementing the new CPPs that they have in place right now in their first year of their new funding cycle. So if you know of somebody who, is an SSS, spread the word. That is an allowable cost, is professional development. or if you are also a director or involved with the SSS programs on your campus, you might want to let them know. And as always, letting you know that we have on our Wix, we have our proposal writing courses for EOC and Talent Search. These are unallowable costs. They have to be paid out of either indirect funds or institutional or agency funds. But you want to check those out. We'll put those in the link as well. Really great to start working on your proposals and drafting them. I don't know when the competition is going to open up. I don't know when, but I have a feeling that when it opens up, they're going to give us the shortest amount of time allowable to submit to work on it. So maybe just a 30-day turnaround. So you want to have, just like I'm saying, have your APR done and you waiting on the APR website to open up. You want to have your proposals done, because when they open up, you'll be lucky to have just 30 days to fine tune it, look at the formatting, look at the CPPs. But I doubt seriously that any of the other items in the RFP from 2021, which are in our Google Drive, I don't think anything's going to change at all. So you need to start writing as though the 2021 RFP or program application is what it's the final one for 25-26, and get it all done so you have a draft of everything ready to go when the competition is announced, because I think it's going to be a short turnaround. Now, to get you all used to using that WIC course platform, we're providing free of charge a 90-minute webinar on the TRIO umbrella regulations course that will help any TRIO program across, any TRIO program, no matter which TRIO program you're working for. If you enroll in that, it's a free course. You could get you the feel of how it would be to participate in the rest of the course. This is usually the first session in all our individual TRIO program courses that have another 7 workshops just like it. So just to give you guys a sneak preview and see if you like that kind of platform, it does follow along with the recording. There's a place for you to ask questions of the instructors. There's also a place where you can get some checklist of what you can do in addition to viewing the webinar, and also a quiz, and also gives you a badge. So it's really good for onboarding too, onboarding of new folks, but also a reminder. It's a good reminder for even seasoned professionals. Okay, so check that out. It's an allowable cost. And again, these are all our allowable courses here. I believe we're working on the McNair one right now. And then we've got some other services that you probably don't realize you have funding for because you're waiting to get your budget approved. So, toward the spring and summer, you're probably going to realize you're starting to earn some carryover or collect some carryover funds. So these are some of the services here that we have, budget management, assistance, virtual technical assistance, one-on-one assistance, compliance, policies, procedures manual. We usually get busy with these in the spring and the summer where people start realizing, I've got carryover and I need to start using that. So check that out. So just letting you know where that's at. Okay. So now let's see. I'm going to switch over here and I'm going to go first to EOC. I don't think there's any questions so much, right, Donna? Let me double check. Y'all know when you do Zoom, for some reason, you're not able to see if anyone's, I don't see any questions.
No, I don't see any yet.
Well, maybe, usually when I start talking here about specifics, we start getting some questions.
Yeah.
Right. So can you see right now my screen? I have like a PDF up. Do you see that?
Yes, the objectives.
Yes, right now I have the objectives. I'm looking at EOC first. I want to take care of EOC, and I'm going to slide over here down to the bottom where actually I'm going to talk about the need. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so need for the project. It's very fine-tuned right here. Okay. All right, need for the project, and let me go a little bit. And oh no. Yeah, okay. All right, so sorry about that. I just did something there and it just changed it. Okay, I wanted to cover the selection criteria to make sure that I'm pretty sure it's not going to change. Sorry to move this around, but I want to make sure we have a conversation about the selection criteria for the needs section for EOC. And if anyone's got any questions, just let me know as we go through that. I'm going to have to use my fingers here. Okay, selection criteria, name for the project, 24 points. That's the same as for EOC. I mean, for talent search as well. So I'll get to talent search here in a second, y'all. The secretary evaluates the need for an EOC project in the proposed target area on the basis of the extent to which the application contains clear evidence of the high number or percentage or both of low-income families residing in the target area. All right, and so that's very, very similar, not exact to what talent search has to do. And this involves census data. Guess what's going on with the census right now? Anybody tried to pull data the last 30 days or so from the census? It's down, right? It's down. So unless you did it before the shutdown, this is something you're going to have to circle back to. Okay. Anyone else do that? Try to check the other day and say, oh, I'm finally going to start on this. And then, they're not able to get that information. Right. In the Google Drive, you will have some examples of where to go to get this information from the census when it's up and running. So just keep in mind that that's something that you're going to have to pull when it opens up. Now, you can also start thinking about both Talent Search and EOC. Let's say we have the data, and let's say we're lucky enough to show the need, and you want to put it in a table and answer this right away with one sentence that throws in the comparison to either the state, nation, or both, and then give the reader the table. Okay, very simple. This can be answered with one sentence that references a table or talks about or describes what the reader is going to see in the table. Okay, no guesswork, right? Then what you want to do, and this is something you can start doing because you want to assume, everyone, since we can't get to the census for both Talent Search and EOC right now, let's hope for the best. And when it comes back up and running, we're going to find data that shows that our target area, demonstrates need compared to something. All right, great. So we have our sentence, we have our table, still missing for the exact numbers, but why not, or I would right now think about getting quotes from target school or target area professionals, directors of programs, your target school folks, to speak to why they think there is a high number, or why is it that there's such a high number of low income percentage or both of low income families in the target area. What's the reason for it? What's the story behind it? It'd be just a couple of sentences. It could be their assessment, as long as it comes from them. According to target school officials, the reason for, or one of the major reasons for such a high number or percentage of low income families in the target area are the following, or is the following, or it could be a quote, So that's something that I think keeps it interesting. And you don't want to say that it comes from you as the writer. You don't want to say the reason why, blah, 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 blah. No, you want to say, according to so-and-so, or interviews with target school teachers or counselors, or interviews with community based directors state, the following, that kind of thing. Okay. So you want to start thinking about those quotes. So just because you can't get the specific data from the census, if you know, or you feel very strongly that it's going to show a need, let's try to ask some folks to give us some quotes as to why they think the reason is why there's such a high number of low-income families. Okay. And again, that would be true for Talent Search and EOC. And moving throughout the whole needs section, that's the way you should think about it. Give the reader the quantitative answer with a table. So then you satisfy a reader who likes to read answers, and also a reader who's visual. And you got to make sure they make sense. Sometimes we read proposals and the numbers are not saying what the sentence above it says, or vice versa, right? So make sure they match, because sometimes we update just the table and forget to change the narrative. Been there, done that. But then you also want to start thinking about, okay, well, why? Tell me the why. The why cannot come from the actual writer. The why needs to come from, or, put it in the someone else saying it, someone besides the writer saying that this is the case. It could be the director, even though you're writing it, you could say the trio director states, this is the reasons why, or this is attributed, this high percentage of individuals without, a bachelor's degree are because of this, this, and this. Okay. So you could do that. I think it's better to get quotes from outside of the project, okay, on campus or in the target area, the target schools. This second question here, it's in a different order in the talent search needs section, but it comes up and it's census data. And again, the census is down. But the high number percentage or both of individuals residing in the target area with educational completion levels below the baccalaureate level. For EOC, I would answer in one sentence. This is the number, this is the percentage compared to state and or nation. And hopefully I will only bring a comparison up if our target area is doing worse when compared to both state and national, or if it's just looking worse to the nation and not state, I will leave that out, okay? And then put the table. And then I want to have a little bit, just not on and on, but a quote or a couple of sentences that someone else told me why this is the case. For EOC, you might also want to put a supplemental table or information about, you think that's bad. Look how many people don't have a high school diploma, or look at how many people just have an associate's degree. You could dig a little further. I don't like to put it in the same table as if I'm trying to answer number 2 directly, like leading up to it, because some people say, oh, well, let me tell you first about, the high number of dropouts and associate's degree. And then finally, I'll tell you the answer to the question. No, you want to answer the question specifically and just have a table, perhaps just about showing how many people do not have a bachelor's degree. And then either bullets or a second table that breaks it down into the other educational attainment levels that you feel should show a need. Also, if you have the, once you get into the census, you can have a date to compare it to state and national rates. But then start thinking about right now, why is this happening? Something has happened, or, make it specific to your target area by having someone who works in the target area or in the target schools speak to this reason. Okay. Third question here, a high need on the part, and this is the tough one here. I can muddle through the census. I can get folks to give me quotes. People say, oh, we got that. We got that. We got that. Not a problem. They're thinking, oh, this is easy, until they get to number 3. And number 3 is talking about the high need on the part of residents of the target area for further education and training from programs of post-secondary education in order to meet changing employment trends. That in itself is a whole nother, this is where you really have to get specific as to what's going on in the target area. I had a conversation with some folks the other day and, thinking about writing EOC, and they have some things going on. They have one industry shutting down. So they're saying, well, they were a major employer and they're shutting down operations. So these folks, there's going to be a need for them to get training and other job trends that we see happening. And you could state nationally, but can you bring it down to the target area? Meaning that you could very easily do a search for, education and training, changing employment trends for the United States, recent. Okay, that tells you nationally, but can you tie it into what's going on locally? So you don't want to base number 3 about talking about how it is on a national level, maybe initially, but how can you make that connection so that it's talking about this can be reflected, or this, we see this here, or this is seen locally here in the target area, for example, blah, blah, blah. So they had a company that was shutting down. Okay, so that was another reason for high need for training. And they also had another big company coming in. I think it might have been Google. And I was like, oh, so, what jobs are they looking for? So, give me information, a little table, bullets about what Google's looking for example, and how there's a gap right now. So that could be part of a really great answer. Either way, is something shutting down? and compare it to what you see on the national trend, but can you bring it down, talking to the folks at the workforce center? Is there any way for them to say, national trends, the trends that we're seeing in change in employment trends nationally are also being reflected here in the target area, according to Miss X, Y, and Z, the director or a workforce development director of a program. For example, this is coming in, this is coming in, and you want to give the reader some, tell me what's the hot, what is the demand for employment in this area? Okay, what's the positions, and what educational experience or training is required? And then you have to get people to talk to you to make that connection. You can't do it. You can help them, but it's got to come from them. The GED directors, the adult education program, the workforce folks talking to you and saying, yeah, I mean, we're going to have companies coming in, but I don't know if, our residents have the training that's necessary. So get them to say it. It's very hard to get target area specific quantitative information. You might have to start at the national or the state level and then get people locally to talk to you more about how they see, yeah, that's happening here. Or no, in fact, we see this. Okay, get them talking. 3 takes a while, okay, because that it does require conversations with folks that are local. So 3 is taking the longest for us to get clients to, realize they have to go back and forth with folks to get information that tells the story. Okay. Now, question number 4, I tend to like the best because I actually, for EOC, this is where I put all my baseline. You know how you have 4 objectives? Okay. The baseline for all those 4 objectives is where I make sure the first time the reader sees the baseline and shows that there's a need in the target areas compared to state and or national rates is in question number 4. On purpose, right before they get into the objective section, number 1. And number 2, I couldn't figure out where else to put it, under 1, 2, or 3. Because, earlier they specifically asked in the EOC needs section, the low percentage of individuals that have a baccalaureate degree, that have earned a baccalaureate degree. Well, we don't have an objective specifically that says how many of your students will earn a bachelor's degree. We have an objective that says how many will go to college, right? We have an objective that says how many students will earn dropout students, basically, that are not already enrolled in an educational program, will either go back to high school or get a GED as our first objective. So I got to find the baseline for that. So this in number 4, I would say, hey, another indicator of the need for EOC program is the low percentage of target area individuals that earn a high school diploma or a GED within 12 months of dropping out or getting services, whatever. I need to find that baseline. Another indicator would be the low percentage of folks in the target area that apply for financial aid. Okay, so I need to find that baseline. Okay, and another baseline for objective number 3 is the low percentage of individuals that apply for admissions. I have to show there's a need, and I have to give that baseline. Like without anybody, this is the low number. And so we're getting ready to, in the objective section, to set our objectives off of that. But I have to have the baseline first, and it had to have come from the needs section originally. And then the last one, this is where I talk about in the target area. Right now, this is the baseline of the adults that go on to that enroll in college. So I have to find that baseline because I'm going to, in the objective section, talk about how we're going to improve upon that. Okay, make sure those are stated, and I talk about them as though they're unaddressed educational issues. And then I need to also list at least 3 or 4 socioeconomic problems. And I usually rely on the census for that. I do use a lot of quantitative data from the census, female head of household, how many people in public assistance, how many people at the poverty level, which is lower, or than the TRIO, taxable income, and a whole bunch of stuff from the kind of like throwing a bunch of stuff from the census about the target area. that relates to the socioeconomic problems in the target area. Right now, I can't get that from the census directly, but I can start thinking about, well, you know what, we do have, you know, I have heard or I've seen, or the workforce told me that our unemployment rate is higher or has increased. Okay, well, who says that? The Workforce Center. Okay, that's a bullet. What about, you know, if you have an idea that, yeah, female head of household, I remember in the last proposal it was high. So let's assume it's going to be high again. Who can I get to mention or, you know, speak to that? And these don't have to be different folks. You can get your, you know, your longtime community liaisons or your target school liaisons that, you know, hopefully throughout the years that become, you know, acquaintances, so to speak, or at least, you know what you're, you get what you're asking them for, and to show a need, and can give you that information or can speak to that, to speak to that specific indicator. Okay. All right. So I don't know if we have any questions specific to the need section of EOC. Anybody? Nothing. Okay. All righty. So let me go to talent search. And let me make this a little bit bigger here. This is the talent search RFP for 2021. This is the one we're working off of. I go back and look at it, make sure I don't pick up on something or miss a word. I doubt very much that they're going to change anything about this. It's going to stay the same. So just FYI, the secretary evaluates the need for a talent search project in the proposed target area on the basis of the extent to which the application contains clear evidence of the following, very similar wording to EOC: a high number or high percentage of either low-income families residing in the target area or students attending the target schools who are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. Okay. I would recommend, if you can, I've always tried to get both. I know it says or, but if I can, it would be great to have two tables here of one of the low-income families residing in the target area, and then a second one showing how the target schools have a high percentage of students that are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. Okay. We do have in the Google Drive some places where you can get the free reduced information for states. You can use comparison and the nation. That I know people will tell me, well, they don't, you know, once it gets to be 33% of the target school, they say 100%. Okay, that's great. But there are other ways, and other third-party reporting agencies have been able to pull the real rate, so to speak. So you might want to check that out in case you're having a struggle going initially to your first source, which would be the target schools. They just say everybody. I'm like, oh, okay, well, kind of don't want to show everybody, you know, or they say, oh, just to the people that apply. So you might want to check those sources out in the Google Drive to see if you're able to get some more specific. But if you can, it would be great if you could talk about these as two separate tables. But then, just like I told you about the EOC discussion, once you get the answer to question number one, the first part of it, in one sentence, where you clearly state what they're going to read in the table. You don't want to see, as you can see, there's a high number of low-income families in the target area. Now I'm going to say table one or A1 indicates that there's, you know, 45% of the families, I'm just making up percentages, low-income families residing in the target areas, compared to 20% for the state and 15% for the nation. Okay. And then we put the table that says just that. It's underneath the table that it would be great if you could have somebody telling you why they think this is why, you know, due to this, due to that. It's been that way for as long as they've worked there or in that area. The same thing with the table about the free and reduced lunch. Okay, you want to go ahead and try, if you can, to get someone to give you a quote for that, right? And again, sometimes we quote our own staff here. So we have a Q&A. Let's see here. In this area, we have a large number of low-income single parents that do not have 4 years to wait to go back to work in that industry that will increase their income. They need short-term certifications that lead to stackable credentials that could potentially lead to a degree. And this is a question for EOC. But you know what? This also could be used in talent search. And the very last question, where you're just basically putting everything and anything to show that there's a need if you have the room. How do we demonstrate this need in our proposal? Well, again, you're telling me some great information, but you need to get someone else to say that. Someone else. Did you get this information from the Workforce Center? Who did you talk to get this? And even if you looked at some material or this is coming directly from you, then say, according to blah, 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 there's a large number of low-income single parents who have 4 years to wait to go to work in the industry. This would be great. This would be a great quote, but we need to say, according to who? Who says this? And this should be, I believe, in answering question number 3, where it talks about employment trends in the target area. Okay. And also this could be something that if this is happening in your area and you want to talk about it, where would it be appropriate? Probably you could talk about it in the last question, or possibly this could, for talent search, be the same quote could be used in just here in the needs section where it talks about the low percentage of folks that have a bachelor's degree. Okay, they could also be mentioned here as a reason there. So you could use this type of assessment in both EOC and talent search. This would be perfect to mention in EOC, question number 3 about the employment trends, in addition to the other things we talked about, that I briefly mentioned about the industry shutting down and then that other company coming in. And this could be another thing, shutting down of companies, new industries coming in, and having a large number of low-income single parents that don't have the time. But again, that's hard to get in a quantitative table or in a website. And that's something that you'll have to get someone to speak to it or to agree to this or to say that for you, where they could be quoted. Okay. I love it, but that would be perfect for that. All right, great. So I'm going to do that. And thank you for that question. All right, so let me go back to talent search. And Donna, just give me a thumbs up if you can still see the talent search RFP. We're good. Thank you. Okay. So now let's talk about the high number or percentage of, okay, we talked about area. Okay. Okay. Next, second question. And this is the one that's been giving us a hard time. The low rates of high school persistence among individuals in the target schools, as evidenced by the annual student persistence rates in the proposed target schools for the most recent year for which data are available. Y'all know they're promoting everybody, regardless if they need to be promoted or not. So first of all, run the numbers the way you can get it from the schools. And we usually look at how many students were enrolled in each grade level last school year that we're able to get a complete set of data for, and compare it to how many students now are enrolled at the next grade level in the next school year for the latest full year that you have access to. Do that first. And hopefully you don't have a 90 or 95% rate across the board. If you do, you've got to think of some other way to show the need. Dig in a little deeper. And, talent search, we're looking for students. Remember the purpose of talent search, the name talent search. When you look at the purpose of the program, it mentions, it states that you're looking for students to have potential for success at the post-secondary level, that they have potential before you even start working with them. So for those tables, for those folks that are not able to show that there's a need, when you pull the data for item number 2 here, because it's so high, some people say, oh, well, it's like 99%, because they promote everybody. I said, well, then you're going to have to add on another layer. You're going to say, you're going to have to go back and get the target schools. I mean, you have nothing to lose, because otherwise you're going to lose 2 points if you can't show a need here. And then you're going to lose points in the objective section, because the reader's going to say, well, there was no need. So how can I give you points for the objective in the objective section if there's no need in the first place, right? there was no need. If you leave it alone, you're going to lose 2 points. Okay. And maybe you're okay and you're an existing program and you have enough prior experience points where 2 points is not going to kill you. Remember though, you're going to lose points in the objective section. Okay. So that could be another 2 or 3 points. Okay. 5 points. I'm cool with it. Or since you got nothing else to lose, you might want to say in your table that you're adding another layer of rigor, meaning that we want to look at the persistence rates of students that have gone from one grade level to the next grade level with a 3.0 or higher, which is a B GPA, right? A B, right? A B 3.0 is about a B. And remember, we can always tie it into, this is the group of students you're supposed to be recruiting from anyway. Those students that have potential for post-secondary, as evidenced by having a 3.0, which is a B at their target schools. If you didn't throw that in, be prepared to lose 2 points because you're not showing need. If you add it in, it's like a Hail Mary. We're taking a chance that we can convince a reader to see it our way, and we have a fighting chance. And they may go, oh, okay, 2 points. Yes, so I save those 2 points, and then I'm going to bring up that baseline in the objective section and save those 2 or 3 points. So I went from just giving up and saying it is what it is and taking a hit for 5 points. And now I have a chance to turn it around and keep those 5 points. Okay. And actually, now the thing is that you do that, then to be fair, when you do your APR every year, you should add that. Also, you should follow up and say, you know what, we're going to count those students in our program that came back for another year that had a 3.0 or higher. Okay, just to be fair, you used it to get funded. You should use it on your APR as your definition as well. Okay. Any questions about that? If you're showing a need, and we have, so far, one of our clients, without having to do that, showed a need. And I was like, okay, we didn't have to go there. But with everybody else, we're having to add on that layer. We're also having to do that in number 3. The low rates of students in the target schools or schools who graduate high school with a regular secondary school diploma, and the standard number of years for the most recent year for which data are available. All right, so right here, it doesn't say that you have to go with just the seniors. Okay, so it's a trick question. And all these years I've been tricked and I've snuck by, I got by with getting perfect scores when I shouldn't have. I should not have, because I was giving the reader the wrong baseline. But in my defense, when you look at this question, it doesn't say anything about just seniors. It says low rates of students in the target school or schools who graduate from high school with a regular secondary school diploma and the standard number of years for the most recent year for which data are available. What I mean is, yes, it's asking for the senior graduation rate, but I had always been utilizing the cohort graduation rate, which is looking back to how many 9th graders started 4 years ago, and then fast forward 4 years, how many of them graduated. So I was saying, oh, look at the low rate of students that graduated, because I was using the cohort graduation rate. And you can do that to show, wow, there's a need when we look way back for 4 years ago, right? The 9th graders and how many of them stayed at this school for 4 years and graduated. Okay, that's fine. But you also then have to force another table, okay, that's not specifically asked for, that just talks about the high school, the 12th grade only graduation rate. From fall, like if I was doing it for last year, the 12th graders that started fall semester of 2024, that number of 12th graders, okay, just the 12th graders. I'm not going back in time of when they were 9th, who should have been there, of everybody that started as a 12th grader in fall of 2024, how many of them graduated with a regular diploma by spring of 2025? Okay, so in one academic year, because that is the true baseline for the objective. Because when you go to the objectives, it changes its tune. Okay, and it doesn't spell it out here. You have to look in the wording of the program profile form, which is also in the RFP, where it talks about secondary school graduation. the wording is of the 12th graders served, what percentage of them are going to graduate with a diploma? So I had been using all these years, I had been putting in the cohort to show how, oh, look at the 9th to 12th grade. Isn't that sad? And pretty much saying that that's my baseline. And this time around, I didn't get on all of them, but it just takes one time for that to happen for me not to do that anymore. And so this time around, y'all, I am making a choice to start right away and answering the question with the 12th grade only graduation rate, okay, which is pretty high because it's just 1 year. But I also throw in, if I have to, if it's not showing a need, with the 3.0. So not only it's my 12th graders that started the fall semester of 2024 that graduate in spring of 2025, but only those that graduate with a 3.0 or higher. Just try to show the need, okay? Because that is the correct baseline for the objective, okay? Because it's only about the 12th graders, right? So don't be like me and lose a point in the, or 2 points in the objective section completely. Even though I slid by on the need section, they gave me full credit. You know, now I'm going to do is I'm going to start right away with the 12th grade rate, which is what they want. And then I'm going to say more alarming is the graduation cohort rate for those students that start in the 9th to 12th grade. Now, there's no objective. I'm not going to use that information as my baseline, but I am going to include it as my more alarming piece. Okay. Kind of, you know, if they're not impressed or they're not feeling that, oh, that's not so bad. Okay, well, let me show you how it is. If you allowed me to, you know, to take it back to when they were 9th graders, now you see, now there's a big difference, you see? So that's why we do it. So again, if you're pulling the data for just the 12th graders and there's a difference when you compare it to the state graduation rate or the district or state, fine. Remember how, you know, what's the baseline? Is it in the 80s or 70s? If it's in the 90s, if that's where you're starting from, it's going to be really hard to set an ambitious, yet attainable objective. Okay, so this is what takes the longest here, you know, going back and forth and trying to get these rates to show a need. The other one you want to look at is the one that happens right here. Well, you would think it would talk about the rigorous secondary school program of study, but it doesn't. It jumps to the low post-secondary enrollment and completion rates among individuals in the target area and schools as evidenced by, so I have to speak to the low rates of college enrollment by graduates of the target schools in the most recent year for which data are available. And I also have to talk about census data. I need to find the high number or percentage of individuals residing in the target area with educational completion levels below the baccalaureate degree. And by the way, I'm on question number 4, but already question number 1, I mentioned that you want to try to get someone to speak to the reasons why the rates are so high, you know, of low income families. And then when I talk about the low persistence rate compared to the state or the district, I want to get someone to speak to that. Now, what are the reasons why the target school students are persisting with a 3.0 at a lower rate? And then, you know, now about college, you know, what are some of the reasons why your target school students are going to college at a lower rate, right? The same thing here with why are so many adults or residents in the target area, why they don't have a bachelor's degree. What's one of the main reasons? You got to talk to somebody. You got to get them to give you quotes to keep it interesting and also come up with a reason why, to tell the story, like they keep saying, right? And then we go back to number 5, brings it back to that rigorous. Now it's about the seniors again, just the seniors, because your objective for talent search, objective number 3 is about the percentage of 12th graders who graduate with a regular diploma, having completed the rigorous post-secondary, the rigorous secondary school program of study. So in this question, I have to quickly tell the reader what is our definition of a rigorous secondary school program of study. You have 6 that you can choose from. You have one of the 6 you have to choose from the regulations. Okay, so this takes some studying, some, you know, things. If you're lucky, you could say, oh, we'll just use what we used last time because it worked last time, it's still in place. Some people are having to reassess that and say, oh, what we used last time is no longer in place, it's not working. So this can't be a overnight decision. So in the regulations that are included in the RFP, where it talks about definitions, you'll see the 6 different definitions for rigorous. Dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment is not listed outright as one of those definitions, but it may be part of definition number 2, which is basically whatever the state says or describes as an honors program, and maybe it's listed in your state's definition. So that's how you can latch onto that. But the number one thing here is you want to go ahead to make sure the reader knows what the definition is, and that you clearly state the baseline for the 12th graders, not the cohort, what I was using before, that graduated with a regular having completed the secondary school program study. You can add that in if you want to a supplemental information like I did with the overall cohort graduation earlier. But I want to make sure I'm giving the reader the right baseline because I need that in the objective section, okay? Because it is all about just the 12th graders. And again, I haven't had to do that because students, if we are selecting a rigorous secondary school program of study that truly is rigorous and difficult to achieve, we don't struggle as much to show that there's a need when you compare it to district or state. It's very hard to compare it to national because everyone's using a different definition. So again, you want to try to also to get reasons why, because the other thing is, here's the math that they're struggling. But the question is the extent to which the secondary schools do not offer their students the courses or academic support, right? Well, in Texas, for example, and in a lot of states, it's state law that students have access to the program. So I can't say they don't have the courses. So now I have, thank God, or academic support. So I have to go ahead and really do a needs assessment and get the schools to open up, or at least some of the counselors or advisors or whoever you call them there, to speak to how their school is not supporting their students or more of their low-income first-generation students to get that or to complete successfully a rigorous secondary school program of study. So rarely, I may be able to get the quantitative answer as to how many 12th graders graduate with complete, a regular diploma, but having completed a rigorous secondary school program of study. Okay. But the other part of the question where, I have to say that the schools do not offer their students the courses, they offer them, then I have to come up with bullets, a paragraph with some bullets saying these are the reasons how they are not providing them with academic support. And that's a tough ask, right? When you're asking people to help you at the target schools and you're basically asking them, let's be for real, to, not exactly to give you reasons why they're dropping the ball, in providing students with the academic support. Right. So that's a delicate ask. Right. And they go, well, who's going to see this? Oh, nobody, just as Department of Ed. Right. It's going to be like, what? What you could do is you could stress, okay, what if we talk about the low success of the first low, because that's what you're looking for, low income first generation students. When we ask you to think about those students, what's happening there? Give us some reasons why the school is not able to provide. Is it, things, and we have, we threw in some reasons there, or you can come up with staff. Usually the talent search people can usually start rattling things off as to why they think, right? It's easy for us to say, right? We're outsiders. So we could probably come up with 3 or 4 reasons right off the top of our heads why the schools are dropping the ball. Now you just have to get the school to say that, and hopefully it comes from them, because it would be more impactful according to target school officials, according to target school instructors. You could still get by saying a needs assessment of the talent search project staff or the director of the talent search program in place indicates that this is what they've seen over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. Okay. That might work. But what's not going to work if you just throw in there an assessment without tying it into according to who. Okay. Can't be an editorial piece, so to speak. Okay. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. It's not tough to show the math that the students are struggling. It's tough to talk about, your target schools not, rising to the occasion, and sometimes they want to read it, and then you have to ask them to ask them to share that information. That doesn't happen overnight. That doesn't happen with an assessment you just email to them. We do have an assessment, but I tell people that assessment, that target school needs assessment, is really more for internally for you to decide what questions you should ask during a Zoom or something in person, where you can try to get that quote, that information back. It's rare that I see people send that cold, just to all your target school folks without at least, giving them some reason why, you need this type of information. Okay. And then the last question in the needs section is, again, my favorite question in the EOC needs sections, that last one, and the same thing here with Talent Search, is where I really go to town, and I just don't go all over the place. I want to follow the order. Other indicators of need, including, this is not a suggestion. This is not a suggestion. This is mandatory. Low academic achievement. So I got to find something and low standardized test scores. So I got to find something saying that maybe the target schools overall have been labeled as a certain category. Like in Fort Worth here, they took over I couldn't believe it. It's a big deal, but that was our target school district when I worked for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And now the state has taken it over. So I bet most of our target schools have a label that the state has put on them. There's not that we used to say blue ribbon schools were the best. I don't know what category they're using now, but I would probably bring that up and say, all of our target schools have been labeled as low academic achievement due to the following, according to TEA, Texas Education Agency. And then I want to have a table of low standardized test scores. I think in Texas, I think it's still the STAR, and maybe at the middle school, wherever you can get the data, at the high school level, perhaps. I want to show compared to the district or to the state. Our students are doing, are struggling with that. Okay. And then this is including, you can't avoid it, a high ratio of students to school counselors in the target schools. And that's another place where a lot of people are struggling. You're going to have to find another entity that has a lower ratio so that it looks like all your schools are, have a higher ratio than either the district or the state or national. And I think nationally, I think it's 485 to 1, I believe. So, and again, we go back and forth with, well, how many people are really full-time? And, you're full-time, but you're split across 2 schools, a middle school and a high school. So you're not really full-time. So you have to make sure those are answered right away. And then the last part of the last question, you'd want to talk about any other unaddressed academic issues. So we bring up this is where we can talk about, issues faced, the people that maybe drop out, maybe absenteeism, maybe truancy, that kind of thing, or what infractions at schools, anything and everything that you can possibly bring to say, look, we haven't talked about this yet. It could be, are there any other programs in the target area or in the target schools like Talent Search that tracks students over, from middle school to high school, serve them and then track them throughout college if they go to college. You could state that. Also, we bring up a lot of the census data here, socioeconomic problems, and including, you cannot ignore this. So when you're in your conversations with the target school folks, it's not so much stating, well, how many foster care youth or homeless youth are at each target school. That's so hard to track. You need to focus that conversation to, what are the following, like if I'm talking to one of my target school folks, counselor, teacher, or faculty, what would you say are some of the issues that foster care youth face in trying to, stay in school and go on to college. I mean, we could Google that, right? And maybe come into that conversation with 4 or 5 things that are happening nationally. The thing is, I have to get you to, would you, for example, is this what you're saying? Yes, we see that as well. Or no, or here it's a little different. Or is there anything else you want to add to this? Would you say this is what's happening here? That those are the issues that they're having. And then about students who are homeless. What are some of the unique things, and sometimes if they're struggling to kind of come up with reasons, you can rattle some of those off that, we could all see are happening nationally or through a national study. But I have to get people locally to say, yes, I agree, or I don't agree, or this is why, or this is what the issues that I've seen, or barriers that I've seen that they've happened, and quote them. Okay. This is another area where sometimes we use our own talent search staff to speak to that. Of the students they've worked with in the past that were homeless or foster care youth, the following are some of the specific barriers that students from the target schools have faced, and put some bullet points there. Okay. All right, so that brings us to 12:56. Any questions or comments? Let me see here. Let me go ahead and stop sharing this here. Anything? Oh, we do have a question here. Let's see here. And let me share just, let me stop sharing. Sorry, I had it right there. Good question here, Q&A. I reviewed the results of our state report card last year. After reviewing and the reading and math test scores, I noticed that they were far below grade level. Could you use that as well? Yes, you could use that as well for EOC as well. This is great for talent search to use that. That's exactly what we want to use for talent search question, but I could use this for EOC as well. I bet I could tie it into possibly in the second question, the third question, where we talk about employment trends, that there's a need. I could slide in that, our test scores achievement are way below. So this is indicating that there's a great need for these target area residents to get additional educational support and remedial courses to rise to the occasion so they can be hired. So that could definitely be used. So see something there that may not be directly well, they're about youth test scores, but they grow up, they're going to grow up and be residents. So that would be something that would work for both talent search and EOC. It's just going to be, it'll have to be in a different, a different part of the need section. I can use it. It just have to be used, because they're different need sections. Similar, same data, but goes in a different place in the need section. Okay. Or highlighted differently. Do we have any other questions? Let me see.
I don't think so.
Y'all are so quiet today. Is it because it's so cold? And it's just the first day. It's just,
Okay.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you all. Thanks for the great questions. This is what it's here for, just trying to, you're not out there alone. I'm just trying to force myself and kind of guide you all to go through the RFP with me. I'm picking up on stuff. I'm getting ideas. The more I talk to folks, the more they give me ideas on examples of what I can use in the proposals. Not so much, use specifically, but examples of, well, what about this? What about that? Remember, census might be down, but think of the reasons why. If we're assuming that the stats will still show that there's a need, try to get those quotes going. Who can you ask? Who would be the best person to do that for you? Don't forget, you want to also look at our YouTube channel if you're just joining us for the first time. And also check out the Talent Search and EOC WIC courses. I know they're not an allowable cost, but they're a good investment, and you can go back and watch them over and over again. And also ask us questions, and we'll pop up and answer some of them, or all of them, as soon as we get them. But I don't think, Donna, we've gotten any questions through those yet, have we? Maybe they're so thorough, I'm thinking. I don't know. But there is a place where you can ask questions, and we're going to start being more active on that internal um, list of folks that do attend our Talent Search or EOC proposal writing workshops, whether it was live or part of the course. We're going to have our own little listserv, our own little group, so that we can start asking questions and helping each other out through the process. Okay. All right. Y'all have a great week. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hope you found this to be helpful. Thanks, Leah. And we will see you next week. All right. Hopefully we'll see some of you for our EOC APR on Wednesday. Take care. Thank you all.